5, 10 minutes or so. So module 2, we start talking about creating change and strategies for change making in high-risk behaviors. How do we create this change? In this module, we talk about individual targeted and population level approaches or health promotion approaches to creating change. A stages of change model or the trans theoretical model. Has anyone heard of the trans theoretical model? Great. You might, maybe it'll ring a bell whenever we get through it. If not, it's brand new, woohoo! We'll talk about that model. We'll talk about evidence-based practices or evidence-based approaches to creating change. Okay? So when we start off, we need to say we're going to talk about high-risk behaviors, but we need to define what a high-risk behavior is. So I know that class has just ended. We're going to do a little bit of math, graphing. I know, right? It won't be too bad. I have a cheat sheet. I did really bad in econ my first quarter, or my first semester of college. I ended up having to drop out. So math is not my forte either. So,
where did you do your undergrad?
I was at Georgetown.
Oh.
So Catholic institution as well. You all are Franciscan, right? Yeah. So actually, my hometown where I grew up is right next to Franciscan University of Steubenville. I don't know if you're familiar with other Franciscan institutions, but that is where I'm from hometown-wise. So, fun fact.
Are you actually from Steubenville?
I'm actually from Weirton, just across the river. But
My kids, every time they hear in church, they go, Steubenville?
I mean,
Steubenville,
that might be what the people from Weirton also call it. But I'm also from
It hasn't had a good
Weirton.
reputation the past couple of years.
No.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I will say Steubenville is also where I took my SATs at Franciscan because they didn't operate in West Virginia.
That's funny.
The closest place for me to go was Steubenville or Charleston, West Virginia. So that's where I went. All right. Digressed a little bit, but we can talk more about Steubenville growing up if you'd like. But what we're going to do is we have a chart up here. This axis here, the top of it's going to be high probability. Bottom is going to be low probability. The horizontal?
Yeah.
Okay, x-axis or horizontal. This one, we're going to call high risk versus low risk. Now, when you think of risk, I want you to think of risk to your life. So I'm going to give you a scenario. I want to plot it in one of these quadrants. Big words, right? And tell me where this would fit. So for example, a meteor striking Earth. What's the probability of that? Low? What's the risk to your life? So meteor, right there. Okay. How about, this is not in the book. This is just an interactive activity to talk about what a high-risk behavior is. Yeah. Cicadas come in the summer. What is the probability of that? High. And what's the risk to your life? They are. I'm so glad they're not going to Denver. I remember them however many years ago that was growing up in West Virginia. Not a fan. Okay. Next. Oh, now I opened up the cicada, the can of cicadas. Not even the can of worms, the can of cicadas at this point.
My sophomore year of high school, I had to park and walk to school, and I would literally hopscotch down the road.
Yeah, I never went outside this summer when they were I stayed inside. I was paler than I am now. All right. So a flat tire. Remember, this is like risk to your life. Think of every time you've driven. What's the probability that you get a flat tire? Low. Maybe a little bit higher up there. What's the risk to your life?
I think it depends. Yeah.
All right, we can put
If you get a flat tire and you're doing 60 on the highway, that is not.
We can put it there.
Okay.
Is
that good? Is that good, Dot?
Yeah.
For purposes of my activity, I want to end up in that quadrant. I know, you're just...
I'm sorry.
All right, drinking and driving on a college campus. Yeah, because there's one option left, right? So drinking and driving. When you think of your work as peer educators, and when you think about high-risk behaviors, we want you to think about the high probability and the high risk. Bless you. You know, what is their most danger, most consequence to your life? And what's the most probable? If you're doing programming, you're probably not doing programming maybe as an RA or as other forms of peer educators on meteors crashing to Earth. Might not be doing the some students probably do need to know how to change a flat tire, but you're probably not doing much education around flat tires, probably not doing too much around cicadas. But the work that you're doing as peer educators probably goes along with this drinking and driving. The high risk, the high probability, and the high consequence. So as we go through this module, I want you to remember this quadrant up here. And as we go through the rest of the training, thinking about that quadrant as well, and to think about the work that you can do as peer educators. So that is sort of defining that high-risk behavior. Now we get to the book, where you might have some questions there. There are three different types of approaches through health promotion to creating change. Individual, targeted / group, and the community / population level approaches. As with everything, there's a slide that really just kind of goes over this and over and over and over. But when you think about the individual approach, this is just one-on-one. You're working with someone individually to create some change. It's a one-on-one conversation. Maybe it's counseling, maybe it's coaching, maybe it's working with someone to set some goals. That's the individual level approach. Individual, one-on-one. Second one is the targeted / the group approach. This is a larger group of like people, but not everyone. So when you think about this targeted or this group approach, maybe it is a specific student organization. Maybe it's just first-year students. They all have something in common, and you work with them as that group. So targeted group subset of the population. Because the population, or the community level approach, you think of everyone. You focus on everyone. Maybe the entire campus. Maybe the entire town of Reading. Maybe it's the entire collegiate population in Reading. That's a large group of people, all these students. When you think of this community or the population level approach, this is when your activist role as a peer educator comes out. Because you're creating change. You're creating maybe new policies on campus. Seatbelt checkpoints, so on big party weekends, the DUI checkpoints. Everyone has to go through, regardless, everyone who's driving, which is a lot. But that is why that would be that community population approach. Because it's everyone who's driving. So that focuses on everyone in a specific area. So individuals one-on-one, targeted group is a little more specific, community / population is everyone. Watch 2 videos. I want you to tell me what approach or approaches are being used in these videos.
Come get some free stuff.
Hey Josh, what's up?
How you doing?
Good man, you partying this weekend?
Yeah, of course, it's homecoming, man.
Alright. Well hey, here, take some free tips on how to stay safe. It'll keep you out of a bad situation.
Alright, cool, man,
Oh,
thanks.
and don't forget to bring a sober driver and keep you safe. Plus, I hear police are doing checkpoints on campus. Watch for that.
Alright, good advice. Thank you.
Take it easy.
See ya.
Free stuff!
Right. What approach is being used here? Based on what we talked about. Yeah.
I would say individual and targeted group because you
Ooh,
can tell
what?
they were
They
targeted.
can be more than one? That was sarcasm. Keep going.
Well, a targeted group because obviously they were kind of targeting their classmates. As I was assuming they were like in like a class building, and then individual because that was his specific friend and he was watching out for his friend.
Okay.
I also think community was in there too, because she talked about the checkpoints and stuff.
Okay. Great. Did you? Sorry. I will get back to you next. So yes, all 3 were the answer here. Individual, because they had that one-on-one conversation once. Josh
Yeah.
came to the table. They had that one-on-one conversation, gave some resources, some tips on how to be safe. The targeted or the group population, because it's whoever wants the free stuff. That works whenever we're. No. I remember tabling and yelling and trying to get rid of my flyers, but it grabbed folks who were potentially going to drink that weekend, and then the community/population level approach of the seatbelt checkpoints, because I showed that on the last slide. But yes, so all three of the approaches were being used here. All right, watch the next one.
We should do something during Spring Fest. That's always a big party weekend.
Yeah, and it'd be nice to do something for people who don't want to drink.
I don't know, guys. Spring Fest is huge. I mean, everybody goes to it. Do you think that we could actually compete?
Hello, there are thousands of people on this campus. Not everybody goes to Spring Fest. Some of my friends avoid it at all costs.
Yeah, I think quite a few people will come to our event as long as it's fun and we market it right.
Yeah, like maybe we could do a comedy night. We could have people audition beforehand.
Yeah, or maybe like a battle of the bands or something like that.
Okay, those are some great ideas. Why don't we write them down and see what people would like?
All right. What approaches? Target group, why?
They're focusing on the non-drinkers, non-partiers.
Okay, so they were trying to focus on an opportunity for the non-drinkers, okay? Anyone else want to make a contrary claim?
I think community and population she said something about like the way they like market it properly, so to get everyone's attention on it.
Yeah. They're all, again, yes, it's open to everyone. Yes, it's targeted to provide an alternative. But it's open to everyone. Because right now, think about the fact that there is no other option. It's Springfest or bust. A lack of a choice means that they can create some change. They can create a change on campus. Maybe change that culture a bit. And when they work on changing that culture, that's when they start working with that community or population approach. And also not having the opportunity or the option for someone who maybe isn't drinking is also sort of targeting that group. Does anyone want to make an argument about individual? Sometimes people do, and I always like to open that up. But there isn't an explicit example of the individual level. So ideas of change, because this is the change-making module. Woo.
No,
When we
tomato,
think,
no onion, lettuce,
when we
and
think
mayo.
about change, we need to remember that change is a process, not an event. Change is a process, not an event. Any one of us like trying to help a friend with a problem that they have, and if they don't change in like an instant and overnight, we just get annoyed by that? Has anyone had that happen before?
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens to me all the time. I want Ryan to not be a type omega whatever, but I need to recognize that he can make progress, and that change is going to take time, because change is a process and not an event. And when we think about this stages of change module that we go through, and we talk about this, the stages of change model that we go through, I want you to remember that it's circular. It's a circular model, and circles are true, and lines or linear processes are bad and false. Hint, hint, hint. If you see something is linear on an exam, you would say that it's false, because circles are good and lines are bad. Have I gotten the hint yet? Yeah? Got you? No? So when we ask you the question, true or false stages of change is a linear process, you would say on an exam?
False.
There we go. I think you got it now. Awesome. So when we think of this model, there are 5 stages. The pre-contemplation stage, the contemplation stage, preparation, action, and maintenance. And to sort of go through this stages of change model, I'll tell you a little bit of my own personal story. Went to college quite a few years ago at this point, and absolutely loved it. Small town, West Virginia. Big city, Washington, D.C. Mom and Dad's house. Living on my own. With a dining hall. With all-you-could-eat food. Could have pizza and hamburgers every night for lunch and dinner. Cereal for dessert and for breakfast. Ben & Jerry's ice cream. All of the time. All the ice cream. Sure, I heard things of like, the freshman 15. That wasn't an issue for me. At this point, I was in a pre-contemplation stage, a pre-contemplative stage, where I was unaware or uninterested in changing my behavior because unlimited all-I-can-eat food at the dining hall was great. The negative did not outweigh the positive. The positive of yummy food, the negative of the freshman 15. That was pre-contemplation. You're not even sure that there's a problem. Eventually, however, you go into contemplation stage. When you decide that your behavior is causing some distress. For me, that was going back after first semester, trying to go to church on Christmas Eve, not being able to fit into my pants or any of my suits that I had. Whoops. I noticed that the behavior was causing some distress in my life. I contemplated creating a change, but I was ambivalent. Mainly because it was the holiday season and there were tons of Christmas cookies and pies and ham and turkey, and sitting on my couch and watching TV was great. And going back to the cookies and getting more desserts and all that jazz. Yeah. So that was my contemplation stage. I can't fit into any clothes, but I got sweatpants and it's Christmas, so I'll just sit on the couch. I was ambivalent towards creating change. It's a problem, not doing anything about it. The third stage is the preparation stage. You know, I decided, you know what? Really do need to lose the freshman 35. Whoops. Need to lose the freshman 35. I'm going to make the change. I'm going to make the plans of what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back to college. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to go talk to a nutritionist at the dining hall. I made the plan, and it was great. And it was great whenever I was doing that because it's right around January. So New Year's resolutions. I didn't do anything with the plan yet because I was still at home. So that's the preparation stage. I made the plan, but I haven't implemented it yet. And finally, or not finally, sorry, the fourth stage is the action stage, where you started to take steps to implement this change. What happens during the action stage, however, is that you make mistakes. And mistakes are okay as long as you overcome them. So for me, went back to campus, worked out for a full week, it was great. Sunday, what did I do since I worked out all week? Pint of Ben & Jerry's, one sitting. Caramel, so good. Love caramel. I made some mistakes, but I learned from those mistakes. I continued to go to the gym, and then maybe had a serving of Ben & Jerry's. And a serving is not a whole pint, I learned. I mean, according to the label, it's not a whole serving. I learned from those mistakes. That was the action stage. And finally, I ended up in the maintenance stage, where I've made the change. Change takes time. It takes like 30 days for something to become a habit. You continue to work at keeping up the behavior, but you need to make sure it doesn't get stale. So what did I do? I started a new change, and that's why this is a cycle or a circle, and circles are good, and lines are false, and lines are bad. Because after I lost 50, started at 35, see how that worked? Yeah. Just kidding. I decided I want to run a 5K. I decided I wanted to do X, Y, or Z. So I've made the change, and I'm trying to continue the change. And sometimes you fall, even when you're in maintenance, you fall back. AKA grad school. Didn't have time to work out because I was working full-time and going to class full-time. So I put weight back on. And then I got this job, and so every time whenever I come on a trip, I work out the first thing. So yes, it can be a cycle because sometimes you sort of fall in and out of these stages, and that's okay. You just need to remember that change is a process and not an event. And when you're helping someone, or you're working with someone, or you're working with a friend who maybe has an issue, recognizing if you can get them from pre-contemplation to contemplation, that should be a win. If you can get them from preparation to action, that's a win. You might not see them all the way from pre-contemplation to maintenance, because that takes time. But if you could just get them from one stage, you should consider yourself a success. So keep that in mind when we talk about making change. So here's the cycle. As you can see, it's a circle. Circles are good. Circles are not as opposed. Starting off with contemplation, preparation, action, maintenance, pre-contemplation. We're going to watch,
I think I'm ready. I'm out.
we're going to watch some videos. I want you to tell me what stage this person is in.
The personal trainer at the rec center the other day, and she gave me some really great ideas of exercises I can do. Things that won't be too overwhelming. I also met with the nurse at the health center, and she gave me some eating ideas. So now I just got to go get some healthy snacks, some fresh fruit. Oh, and I should probably pull out those gym clothes I got back in January when I was going to start this. But I feel like this time is different. I feel really ready. I'm going to do it this time.
What stage is she in? Preparation what? She sought information from health providers. What else? She's made a plan, but she hasn't done anything with it. Yeah, so that's the preparation stage. All right. How about this one?
Yeah, I'd say I'm sexually active. I met a lot of intriguing females at this place. And I trust all of them. I mean, they seem clean, so why bother with a condom? We're all 18 or 19, so the worst I could get is something minor. Besides, in the heat of the moment, who has time to put a condom on? Or have a deep conversation about each other's sexual history? That's just not my style.
Maintenance? Maintenance, anyone?
I said, is chlamydia his style?
Chlamydia could be something minor. A baby.
It's a baby.
Pretty big.
You know. So yeah, pre-contemplation. The bad of a baby, STI, anything, doesn't necessarily outweigh the good of whatever he's feeling whenever he's having unprotected sexual activity. Pre-contemplation. Don't even recognize that it's a problem. Pre-contemplation. That's funny. All right.
We might have to
Good
use
one. I'm
that.
gonna have to start using that. And so I will credit you.
Never got
All right, third one.
I've only had one drink in the past 2 weeks. I know, kind of hard to believe, but I think back to how I was last year at this time. Ever since I was in that car wreck, I just knew things had to change. So I cut way back on my drinking. Kind of felt like I was in some rehab or something, but it wasn't that extreme. So I worked with a counselor here at the school, and we designed a plan to work some things, change some things in my life. It's been working out. My head's clear, and I can get up in the morning and go do things like running. It's been real good.
What stage is Hey Girl in? I hear maintenance, I hear action. Who wants to say something for action? Yeah.
She learns things, and she says that she never long-term.
Okay.
So she learned that that was when that accident that was too many.
Okay. So she was in an accident, she learned she did still have a drink. Who said maintenance? All right, give me a reason for maintenance.
Well, she's kind of reflecting on the changes she has made.
Yeah.
So I would say it's me.
Yeah.
I would also say it's maintenance because she said that she could run
Mm-hmm.
instead of what she used to do, just sit in jail.
She's found some alternative activities. Okay.
I'd say that it was I would say that it's for the contemplation through maintenance.
Okay.
Because she talked about how she realized that after the wreck, her behavior was causing her distress.
Okay.
And then she went and she met with the health and wellness, for lack of better terms.
Yeah.
People. And then she took the action to reduce her drinking, and she's maintaining that action.
Just transfer through her entire change-making process. I would say that it's maintenance because time has passed. She has done a lot of that reflection. This often, we have some good discussion around this because people are like, well, she still had a drink. We need to know their situation a little bit more before we know whether or not that is a sign of action or maintenance. Because I don't want to be the person to come up here and tell you, you should never have a sip of alcohol in your life. Because that isn't my role. We talk about high-risk behaviors and reducing risk. Having a bottle of wine is different than having a glass of wine with dinner, or having a... So I don't want to be that person to say, never have a sip of alcohol. Now, if you are a recovering alcoholic, then that is a different scenario. So we don't necessarily have enough information here to know that sort of background. But given what she has given us to work with, I would say it's more maintenance, because one drink isn't necessarily that might not be an issue for her. That is still less than this drinking and driving high-risk behavior chart that we talked about earlier, causing you into an accident. So I would say maintenance for this one. Any other questions, thoughts on this? Or I should say, what other questions or thoughts on this? Because I want it to be an open-ended question. Encourage you to share. All right, fourth one.
I guess I've thought about getting out there and doing more. I mean, right now I pretty much get done with classes and I just go home. I don't know where to meet people. I don't know how to approach them. It's kind of scary, and after some time you just kind of give up. My life is not that bad. A little lonely, but not bad at all. I guess I lied to my mom when I talked to her yesterday. I told her I was going to go out with a bunch of friends, but, you know, I'd probably just stay home, watch TV or read.
The pre-contemplation stage, she's like unaware
Okay.
that she's kind of like getting, she's like in between, I think.
Okay.
Like, contemplation, she said she was unaware at first, and then she was like, oh, well, I guess I am kind of alone.
Okay, so maybe she's going through some of these stages in that little video clip. What do you got?
Yeah, I would say that she's contemplation simply because like she's aware of, you know, how her behavior is causing stress or problems in her personal life, but still like doesn't really want to change. Yeah, she's saying like I guess something like this, I guess something like that.
So, sort of thinking like, she's that ambivalence piece that we talked about earlier, where there is a little bit of a stress, but I don't know what to do. I don't know where to meet people. I guess I lied to my mom. Maybe that is a bad sign. So she's kind of in that contemplation. She doesn't have a plan. She doesn't know what she's doing, but she knows that there's some issue going on with her. So that's why she's in that contemplative stage. And one left. I'm sure by powers of deductive reasoning you can figure out which one it is, but we will watch it and I will hear your reactions there.
You know, they always said that quitting would be hard, but I had no idea. The first week or so, the cravings were unbearable. I felt like I was going to die if I didn't have a cigarette. The nicotine patches probably would have helped, but oh well. You know, live and learn, I guess. I've done pretty well, though, you know, sticking to my plan. I've slipped up a couple of times, you know, when I'm out with friends mostly, stuff like that. But I've stayed true for the most part. I just really hope that it gets easier over time, you know? I'm just sick of having these cravings hanging over me.
Action, yay, there's only one left. But why do you say action?
Because he's still struggling with it, but he's still working at it.
Mhm.
Like he hasn't reached maintenance where like he's no longer like fully struggling.
Yeah.
He's actually trying to get to the next step.
He's still very much in that part of the process where he's trying to figure out what works for him.
I would say he said he slipped up a few times, and
Yeah.
that's a mistake that he learned from.
He's made a few mistakes and he's learned from them. Oh, maybe I should have thought about the nicotine patches. I guess I'm going to whoops. Live and learn, I guess. Yeah. Any other thoughts? What I'd like to have folks do is sort of, in your small groups, talk about a change that you've made in your life and see if you can trace the change that you've created through the stages of change. So you did that for Hey Girl. Someone did that for Hey Girl. I was like, you were just kind of staring at me like, no, I didn't.
Just my normal face.
It's just your normal face, good. Okay, so thinking about a change that you've created in your life and see if you can follow through on those stages of change. So feel free to discuss. Alrighty. So as we bring this back together, does anyone want to feel vulnerable and share the change that they've created in their life? The group? All right. Your president taking the lead.
Mine isn't that exciting, but all throughout high school I ran and I was very into cross country.
Okay.
And I was always number 8 on the team, in the lineup. And being number 8, you don't run varsity. It was only top 7 that ran varsity. So I hated it. But I kind of just accepted it. So I was I'm a freshman, it's fine. Number 8's pretty good. And then it was sophomore year, I was it's fine. I'm still a sophomore. And then junior year, I was this is getting annoying. I want to change it. So junior year into senior year, that summer, I realized I want to change this. I want to be on top 7. I want to be better. So that was kind of my pre-contemplation. Then I was contemplating actually changing it. So preparation, I kind of planned out when I was gonna run and stuff like that. I'm running every day, and then that was also my action, running and sure, I made some mistakes. I would cut my workout short. That happens. And then maintenance was just continuously running.
Right. So as you can see, sort of from the change from the beginning up until maintenance. And are you still in maintenance now?
Oh, absolutely not.
Oh no. Okay.
I gave up that dream after high school.
There we go.
Did you make top 7?
Huh? I did make top 7.
There we go.
So,
Snaps for that. All right. Anyone else?
I picked one that we all can relate to. Going from high school to college, you kind of have that mindset, oh, it's going to be the same. It's going to be no problem. I did good in high school. And then, your first semester, so you come in thinking nothing's really going to be different. So that's, the pre-contemplation. Contemplation, I think, starts happening, the first 2 weeks or so. This is not what I expected. Some things really have to change. I need to do this,
Maybe
this,
the first
and this.
midterm comes back. And
Just the first few weeks of being at it, you're this is not what I was expecting. So you have to kind of think about it. And then preparation, I know FYS, your teachers give you all these strategies and things that you can do to help. So that kind of gets you prepares you for it. And then the action is on you to take those steps, learn time management skills, get a planner, those are your actions, and then you of course learn from all kinds of mistakes, staying up all night finishing a paper or whatnot, and then
Or starting a paper.
Maintenance, we're all kind of still working at that at this moment, so the maintenance is still just happening. So yeah, I thought that was one we all could relate to.
For sure. And going from undergrad to grad school, you forget how much that you need to work on that. Right. I don't want to cut conversation short. Anyone else? So that is sort of the stages of change model. There are 5 stages. What are those 5 stages? Pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, maintenance. In addition, there are 5 roles of peer educators. Friend. Team member. Activist. Role model. Educator, the one that's in the name, peer educator. Yes. It's in the name, peer educator, educator. There's 5 there, and then 5 traps that peer educators fall into. Enabling. Too much, liability. Too big, and internalizing. Too much, yes. So I told you number 5. 5 traps, 5 roles, 5 stages. We'll get through a few more 5s. All right. Let's see, evidence-based approaches. So now the last part of this module is to talk about evidence-based practices or evidence-based approaches. There are 4 that we're going to focus on. They are environmental strategies, social norms marketing, motivational interviewing, and harm reduction. All of these, plus the stages of change model, are ways that you can help someone create change in their life. Or you can help your campus create change. So the first one is environmental strategies. And when you think of environmental strategies, I want you to think about creating an environmental scan or doing an environmental scan. In your workbook, there are some questions that we'll go through what you should ask if you're doing an environmental scan. This is really you sitting down and critically thinking about the environment which you live. What are the policies that exist? what policies don't exist. You know, when you think about sitting on task force or committees or even within student government, you can sort of create that change. What you should do is you should really just do an all-encompassing survey of the campus or the group or whatever it is that you're trying to change. We're going to watch a video clip that shows some students going through an environmental scan, essentially just trying to see what's going on campus in terms of a tobacco-free policy. Oh, creating a tobacco-free policy for an entire campus, if you were to go smoke-free or tobacco-free, which of those 3 level approaches would that be? You know, the individual, the target group, or the community population? Community population. If you're creating a tobacco-free policy on campus, that's a community population level approach. Remember that. 3 approaches. What are those 3 approaches? Individual, targeted group, community population. Tobacco-free policy is a community population. So I'm remembering questions as we go through.
Okay, everyone. Dr. William Misa helped completing this.
What is this anyway? Some kind of survey?
Well, sort of. It's an environmental scan, and by filling it out, it tells us about the different policies and services on campus. And this one is actually about tobacco, so we'll probably need to talk to a couple of officers on campus just to see what needs to be worked on.
So what do we do?
Well, we can start by dividing up the questions so that each of us have a few to research, and maybe pick a couple of offices you would want to go to, and we can start from there.
Well, I can do this one about advertising. I know the editor of the paper.
Oh, well, great. Can you find out if they prohibit tobacco advertisement?
Yeah, no problem.
Oh, I have a work study job at the health center. Maybe you can ask them about their services.
Great. And I will locate the overall school policy. How about we meet back here on Tuesday and we'll see what we found out?
That's easy.
Yeah, right? It's hard to sort of explain it, but I think the video does a pretty decent job. The next of the approaches that we talk about are social norms marketing. Folks ever heard some of these phrases like, everyone's doing this, all my friends don't do that, especially when you're like back home living with family, like, well, everyone's going to be there, everyone's doing that. This is what we start calling social norms. And there are going to be 2 different types of norms that we talk about, both injunctive and descriptive norms. When we think about social norms, these are ways of behaving that are considered typical or standard. You seem to be impacted by that. Do you want to tell me what happened? Oh. Okay. So social norms are ways of living that are considered typical or standard. Students misperceive the actual behavior of their peers. It's natural. We always kind of think the worst about people. Because people tend to act in ways that are in line with what they perceive to be the norm. So I came from Colorado, flew in from Denver yesterday. In Colorado, everyone smokes pot. True. Right? Everyone's tried pot at least once. Because it's Colorado, it's Denver, Mile High City.
Sorry, I haven't heard that one.
Well, you haven't?
Well, in reference to pie.
Oh, well, yes. Now, yes.
High in reference to lots of things, but
Right.
not in reference to
Yes,
pie.
so we are at 5,280 feet in elevation, which is a mile, but we have legalized marijuana, or decriminalized marijuana. The CDC actually reports that 38% of Colorado adults have smoked pot at least once. 38. Right? Last time I checked, 38% wasn't everyone. It's not even a majority. Correct. I mean, still 2 out of 5 is a lot, but still not everyone. We have this perception, and we act in ways that we perceive to be the reality. When we actually look at numbers and we look at norms, it shows something different. And the same thing happens on college, university campuses. And this is the ways that you can sort of educate your peers as well. Because when you start thinking, I'm sure your campus probably participates in some sort of a survey or does sort of surveys about alcohol use on campus. Kiara nods her head as soon as she walks in the door.
ACHA, or the NACHA we do.
Oh, good.
And
The
then in
National
the fall,
College
we'll
Health
do
Assessment.
core.
And core, okay? So you have data that compared to national data that probably shows the students are being a little healthier than they thought, than you think. Yeah, you're
Our
aligned.
social norms campaign is question perception. We kind of showed it at one of the events.
Okay.
But yeah, we definitely have statistics that show that we're not
Yeah.
at the national norm level.
So nationally, we normally say that when folks go out and drink, 4 out of 5 do not binge drink. They have between 0 and 4 drinks, 0 to 3 drinks, whenever they party. 4 out of 5. So our perception is everyone's drinking, everyone's drunk, everyone's consuming mass amounts of alcohol. Actually, having that number can be more powerful than saying everyone, or most people, or all the people. And that's sort of where this comes in this next slide, where it starts talking about different types of norms. There are 2 types of norms. Descriptive norms, they have a percentage. I would just, take notes rather than write word for word. I told you what you need to know for the exam. Descriptive norms have a percentage, they have a number around them, versus injunctive norms are just kind of referencing widely shared beliefs. Those are those everyone's, or all people, or most people. What you should do as peer educators is focus on the descriptive norms. I've seen lots of good social norms marketing campaigns in the past. So when you think about social norms, yes, people act in the way that they perceive to be the truth, even if that's not the truth. And we can watch a video that shows this in action.
So how's that project coming along?
Good. Have you seen any of these posters? So ridiculous.
What's so ridiculous about
Well, it's a total lie. Most students have 3 or fewer drinks when they party. You've got to be kidding me.
I don't know, it seems pretty accurate. Why don't you believe it?
Look, when I go out, everyone's hammered. There's no way they're having just 3.
Oh, so you're walking around these parties and checking out what people are drinking. You never know, it could be water or soda. Plus, you never really know how fast people are drinking.
Yeah, I suppose so. It just doesn't seem right.
You know, they actually go around colleges getting stats about this kind of stuff. Believe it or not, getting wasted is not the norm. Maybe you're just seeing the extreme end of things. All right, we're gonna be late.
Stats guy, I like because he really emphasized stats when he said that. So that's just sort of social norms marketing and social norms promotion in effect. Third one is motivational interviewing in terms of these evidence-based approaches. If anyone's ever gone to a counselor, this is what they use. It takes some skills and a lot of practice to be good at motivational interviewing, but it's helpful. For example, I don't know if anyone has ever gone to see a counselor and really the only thing you want them to do is tell you the answer. Just tell me what's wrong and tell me what to do to fix it, right? Unfortunately, that's not what counseling is for. Counseling is for you coming up with the answer. When you use motivational interviewing, it's individual, it's individualized. You work with someone in a one-on-one setting, asking them questions, allowing them to speak freely. You don't necessarily provide the information, but you let the person come to a conclusion on their own. Because when someone intrinsically comes to a conclusion, they're more likely to act upon it. And it does really require some extensive training and extensive practice. Because you need to ask some of those questions, the questions about feeling. How'd that make you feel? Tell me how you were impacted by that. Those open-ended questions rather than like, that sucks. Or yes or no, do you believe X, Y, or Z? It's not going to be helpful for someone. So when you motivationally interview someone, when you've had practice for that, you're able to help them come to a conclusion on their own, make their own realizations, and then be more inspired to create some change. That's the third one, motivational interviewing. Bless you. call it an evidence-based approach. I like to call it a theoretical approach, actually. It's called harm reduction. This ends up being somewhat controversial. But when you think about harm reduction, you're trying to reduce the high-risk behavior. The ultimate goal is abstinence or cessation, but there are many steps that take to get there, because change is a process and not an event. The story of last year, I guess last year at this point, when I was on campus, had a student during the first semester show up in my office. He was smoking a joint in his residence hall room. He was one of the 38% who smokes pot in Colorado. He was smoking a joint in his residence hall room. He got caught by the RAs, came into my office for student conduct. After talking with him, ended up finding out smoked 7 joints a week. So a joint a day. Recognizing that change is a process, not an event, I'm not just going to say, all right, well, you're in my office for conduct now. Congratulations. You're never smoking pot again. You're cured from your pot addiction. Woohoo! No, that's not going to be a helpful case. What we ended up doing, and with counseling's help, was put him on sort of a harm reduction plan. All right, so you had 7 joints this week. Next week, you have 6. Week after that, you have 5. Week after that, you have 4. 3, 2, 1, half a joint, you wean yourself off of it. It worked for her. As long as it wasn't doing it in the residence hall, I was fine. As long as it didn't show back up in conduct, I was fine. But where this gets controversial is that we're still encouraging this person to engage in this high-risk behavior. Some people say, oh, that's enabling. No, it's recognizing that change is a process, not an event. Eventually, after the first quarter, he had stopped. GPA went up not traumatically, that's bad. Dramatically. There we go. His GPA went up dramatically. And he said, my head's clearer, I'm running, like, I feel more active. It's great. So that was harm reduction in action. But what if that would have been heroin, or ecstasy, or maybe higher risk Schedule I narcotics? That could be a bit of an issue. That's where this gets controversial as an approach. Because marijuana is one thing, but there are some other activities which could eventually be sort of life or death. So keeping that in mind when you start working with someone, if you're considering a harm reduction plan, to probably work with folks into that. Remember when you might be taking on something too big. That's harm reduction. And that's module 2. Woo! 2/9 of the way there.
We're killing it, guys.
Almost 20%, like 18%. We're getting there. So we will start with module 3 because it starts off with an activity. Oh, no, you don't want to start with module 3? Oh, okay.